cheers to 1 year of the Warrior Parent podcast.
We did it.
Cheers.
Woohoo!
We did.
Cha-ching! We
Today we're
did
just
it.
gonna talk to each other about what a journey it's been and how grateful we are that you've been listening.
We didn't know what we were getting into, but we're so happy that we did. They told us if you can get through 20 podcasts, you'll have made it through, and we're on number 52. So we're
Actually more because we did
yes.
4 to start. We have 56. We're killing it here.
Woohoo! Woohoo!
Well,
Woohoo!
we love doing it. We hope you love listening. And God, we're just grateful for our community, our village. And it's not just parents, we often say it's families. So parents, kids, grandparents, people who do not have biological children, we're all parenting this world. And it's so important. So thanks for showing up.
Yes. Yes. We love you at the Warrior Parent Podcast, and come see us every week.
The world is a lot right now. Are you feeling it? We all need new tools to help us walk through the chaos with grace, ease, and compassion for each other and for ourselves. In this podcast, you'll hear from parents, educators, and other experts who can bring perspective to the monumental job of parenting. It's time to level up and be warriors for our kids and our communities. This is the Warrior Parent Podcast. I'm Marci Mitchell.
And I'm Debbie DiManno. As parents, we understand that it really does take a village to raise our kids. We hope that this podcast serves to create and support that community for you. Join us as we discuss and practice our core tools, which are proven mind-body techniques that can be used by anyone to improve your life on a daily basis.
Welcome back to the Warrior Parent Podcast for this very special episode that marks our 1 year anniversary of doing this podcast. So, woohoo! We're
Woohoo!
so excited. And so, one thing we're doing is we're celebrating. So, Debbie already poured hers, but I'm going to pour mine if you are so inclined to share a glass of, ooh, that was close.
Oh, oh.
Okay. Share a glass of whatever tickles your fancy, bubbly, alcoholic, non-alcoholic. And, because it's such a special day, I have some little fresh blueberries. Can you see those? That
Oh,
my son
yeah.
and I picked from our yard today. And then I
Nice.
dusted them in sugar because I was thinking of one of my favorite movies, Moonstruck, where they drop the sugar cube, but I don't have sugar cubes. If you want to join us in something that bubbles or something that doesn't bubble, alcoholic, non-alcoholic, water, we love hydration. Join us in toasting 1 year of the Warrior Parent Podcast because you really make it possible. Cheers.
Yeah,
There we go.
cheers. Cheers.
Good way to
Well,
start the day.
that is, yeah, it's not even noontime yet, just folks, so you're listening. We're starting early. But Marcy, had some time to reflect. Marcy and I have had a little vacation. I had a little time in Italy to just shut my mind down a little bit. And I just want to tell you, thank you, for doing this with me. I can't
Mm.
imagine there's another human being on this planet who I'd rather be doing this podcast with. And every week I listen to the podcast and I feel proud about our relationship. I feel proud about the work we've done. So I felt important that I tell you this on our anniversary today.
Oh, thank you
So
so much. I feel absolutely the same. Just so grateful for you in my life. For anyone out there who is not of this certain age, which for me is 58, I think that this is a time when we get so clear on what matters and the people in our lives is like so important. And so for me,
yeah.
women, friends, nothing against men. It's just that women connection right now is just feeding my soul. And
Yeah.
you're a big part of that. So thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm.
Thank you. Okay. So we have lots to talk about today, and I'm not even sure where to begin other than the fact that we're, I don't know, I'm a little bit lost for words. I honestly, when we started this whole venture, and by the way, I just want to give a little shout out. Like, So by now, Marcy and I have over 1,500 downloads of the Warrior Parent podcast, and we are in at least 14 countries and growing by the day. So we are incredibly grateful for all of you people who are supporting us. Because as we do say, it takes a village. So it takes not only a village for Marcy and I to get this produced, but it takes a village of like-minded people to be able to come together and do this really important work.
And a little shout out to our local village, some of the people who are
Yes.
directly involved with this podcast. Justin Baden, our editor, our just amazing administrative helper. You do such a good job. We're so grateful for you.
Yeah.
Our board, our all the people who show up to help us, especially shout out to Sonia Peterson, our treasurer, who is juggling so many things, but always finds time to help us
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
that.
And other board members who we have who jumped on the podcast with us, right? So Vashti Somerville, we could go on and
Yes.
on about Vashti, who wrote a book this year.
Mhm.
Yuli has hopped on with us and done a couple of podcasts.
Yeah.
Are some of my favorite, The Teen Brain, and so these people who have hopped on as part of our board, that is amazing for us because
Yeah.
I don't know how many of you know this, but we also have a nonprofit organization which we run. And so getting back to that place of why we started this, like what is our why, right? What was our intention for starting this podcast? Well,
Yeah.
first of all, it was my daughter who had this wild idea.
She
She
was
was
the
taking
spark.
Yeah, she was taking a class in college and said, "Mom, I think you should have a podcast." And I asked Marcy, and she just was not that excited about it. But my gosh, like Marcy's a pro. Like this, she's the real deal. So,
That is
um,
a funny thing because I had a strong reaction to it, and it was very like I was like, who wants to listen to us? We don't know how to do that. Are
yeah,
you kidding? But part of my journey at this time of my life is stepping into things that are scary and uncomfortable and just with faith. And so,
yeah,
who knew
yeah,
that I would like it so much, that I would enjoy it so much. So,
yeah, yeah. I think we'll be
thank you,
doing this for
Lori.
a long time.
Yeah,
But
and thank you, Debbie, for pushing me
y-
there because
yeah.
sometimes we need a little push.
We need a push. But yeah, for me, I think the concept was that we would create a platform, that we would create a community of like-minded people, that we could be a resource for, you know, we talk about being parents, but I think it's a lot more than that. It's about being a human being on the planet
Mhm.
right now,
There is. Yeah,
in spite of the chaos that's going on.
yeah.
But it really came as a place for us to use our voices. We were so frustrated going up against the systems of education and everyone else who
The
didn't want to.
world, the world.
Yeah.
Anyone frustrated by the systems of the world and society right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big
Yeah. And so I think for me personally, this has been a way for me to do my own healing and to use my voice in that healing, which I really have not had an opportunity to use. But I'm kind of digging it.
yes.
I'm kind of digging it.
Yeah,
So anyway, we have come such a long way, and we started out just with friends and family, right? Like
pretty much.
we
Yeah.
had some coaches and some people who got us started.
Yes, Donna
Um,
Appadone,
Big shout out
Steve
to
and
Don
Nicole
Apadona.
Andrews and their team.
Yes,
Of course,
yes.
Ben and his
Ben
team
Baker.
and yes, it Inspire Your
Yes.
Plan.
Yeah. So
Right.
it's
We wouldn't be here without that, or at least we wouldn't have started as well and as just like I wouldn't have known how to start
yeah,
even, but we had such good people and that was
yeah,
really great.
yeah. And continue to,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And then, we got involved with the podcast collab. Shout out to
Mhm.
them. And
Yes,
next thing you know, we have a worldwide podcast, right? And
truly.
so we've been sitting here, banging our head against the wall, feeling like we're in a vacuum, feeling like we just, the only people who really want anything to do with us are people in our local circles.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, we found out there's people all over the world who are attempting to use their voices on a podcast.
Yes. Yes. And that's that your community doesn't have to be the people right around you. It's great to
Yes.
have people that you're in contact with physically, but we have interviewed people from South Africa, Australia, the UK, Canada, multiple places in the United States. What am I missing? Any other like and it could be anywhere because Israel. It gets
Yes.
trickier when
Yes.
we get to people who are like on a total opposite, but we have interviewed people who are up at 5 in the morning and we've stayed up late for us and done
Yes.
nighttime interviews. And yeah, that is one
Yeah.
thing about this more digital world is this ability to connect.
Yeah.
And there are people doing this good work all
Yeah.
around the planet.
Yeah.
Um,
And the diversity,
yeah,
right? Like that's been a big deal for us, is we really
yeah,
wanted to diversify our
yeah,
conversations. And my goodness, I don't know that there's too many people that we've left out of this, right? On the diversity spectrum. I mean, we've had men and women and trans and gay and straight and all of the above, educators.
primary and from different cultures.
Yes.
We really want to have some indigenous folk on, and so we have been pursuing that. But if you're listening to this and that's you, reach out because
Yeah.
we do want it to be just there's a rainbow of people in the world. There's people from different backgrounds and ethnic backgrounds and places on the planet and different communities. And it's all valid. Everybody gets to bring their point of view, but there's so many people who are still not being seen and heard. And we want that. We want to help empower that, enable that. So help us by reaching out if you feel like something's missing there. God, we'd love to just broaden it. That's what makes it so
Yeah.
wonderful, so rich and delicious and uplifting when you really start to get that
Yeah.
diversity and inclusivity and breadth of
Yeah.
experiences.
And the piece that I love is the feedback, that we've been getting from these people from all over the world.
Yeah,
People, what's really cool about the podcast collab or anyone who collaborate on a podcast, you do your due diligence and you find out and do some groundwork around those people, those individuals who you might be interviewing, and you find all this amazing information out about these human beings, right?
yeah,
And they do the same, and they start listening to your podcast and they're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know, you were doing this or doing that. And I was telling Marci recently, I had someone who's been having some issues with their children, and came up and gave me this giant hug and said, thank you for being an amazing human being. And that was the biggest gift that anyone could give to me, right? It's like to have some validation in the world about this role and about the things that we're doing and saying, and knowing that it's making a difference.
and this was someone you hadn't met who only knew you
No.
from the podcast. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I was thinking and reflecting back to some of the common threads, right? Of some of the things, the topics that have come up for us. And, especially around the parents. I feel like, we've talked about so many different issues, but, some of the topics that came up over and over for us were, I think, those of, first of all, parents all would agree that they're having a very difficult time on this planet right now. There are so many issues that probably we didn't even have when our kids were little, right?
Yeah.
But they are working so hard to do things better, right? To change the paradigm.
Yep. Yeah.
The big one, as you know, for me, is the piece around generational trauma.
Mhm.
And people are really getting to understand that now.
Yeah.
Not just trauma emotionally, but trauma, you know, around physical well-being, right? It's not just mental health that we're trying to fix, but it's real physical trauma, and people are understanding if they can start to make a difference in their own life, then they can make a difference in their children's lives. And oh, by the way, maybe a past life too, right?
Right. That idea of healing backwards and forward that we've talked about is pretty powerful,
Yeah,
because we
yeah,
we all have some kinds of trauma, and some of us have trauma that's could be called horrific, that's, really intense, but everybody has some trauma, and the idea that we can stop passing it down, because a lot of it has been passed down, stop
yes,
passing it down, heal it back, heal it forward, and learn from it. You got to look at it. You got to have that conversation with what stores in your body and in your heart and in your consciousness, because you can't smush it down and think it's going to
yeah,
go away. When you smush it down, it pops up in other places, or
yeah,
if you ignore it, it keeps showing up, because it needs to be dealt with. It needs to be looked at. It needs to be seen, and then
yeah,
hopefully understood, or not understood, but released, at least that
yeah,
you experience it and you release it. And
yeah,
that's powerful work for the
yeah.
planet right now.
Well, yeah, and I think the other thing that's shown up is that, you know, and the reason you and I are so passionate about this is we're a little bit tired of people, shaming our children, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, this generation, that, and the millennials and the Gen Zs,
All
and
the,
like,
yeah, the
right? Like,
generational stuff.
we
Yeah.
feel like we're here to protect these kids, right? Or these younger generations. And, I feel like what we've also learned is that the parents who are stepping up to the plate and who are taking a look in the mirror have a lot of their own shame,
Yeah.
right?
And we know that shame is never productive, never helpful. I look to what Brene Brown, who's one of our reasons for being here, has said repeatedly, that shame is never helpful. You can't shame people into doing better. You can't use shame to try to affect something better. That's not how shame works. Shame is always shutting things down. It's always hurting. It's always shrinking. It's never expansive. And as Brene Brown says, the difference between shame and guilt is guilt is, oh, I did something bad, and shame is, I am bad. And so
Right.
whether you're trying to project shame on someone else, not helpful, or so common, your own shame, we got to look at that, shaming ourselves.
Yeah.
So being in that shameful place, like, oh, I'm so bad. I'm not good enough. I don't belong.
Yeah.
I mean, it really starts here,
Yeah.
letting that go and
Yeah.
forgiving, and understanding that we always do the best we have with what we have in the moment. We do the best we can with what we have in the moment. And that's
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody.
We've talked about, getting personal here, but our own shame around, raising kids, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this the other day. There's a big piece of me that was unavailable. We talked
Mhm.
about conscious parenting, which is another big subject, but I was doing the best I could, but I was working my dogs off just to support my family. And
Yeah.
a lot of the child rearing came from two amazing nannies who
Yeah.
helped me to raise my kids. I missed a lot of that. And there's a lot of that that still hurts.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the reason why I feel it's so important to be able to do this now, and to be able to have done the hard work and looked in the mirror at myself, and then be able to come back and do this, because we also understand that there are no perfect parents, and that's not why we do this. Right.
Right. And no, exactly. We don't show up perfect. If we showed up perfect and we had everything figured out, then there's like no reason to be here. So we come to do work. And, you as a single parent working so many hours, and killing yourself to support your family, is one side. But I was a stay-at-home mom, and I still have, I'm trying to shift it from shame. And I don't know how I feel about the word regret, but when we interviewed, like last week, Nicole Andrews, last week, not in podcast release land, but
Yes.
in our
Yes.
land, it's actually, by the time this releases, it's a few weeks ago. But people who talk about conscious parenting and say things like, all our kids really want is for us to be present. And I spent
Yes.
a lot of my parenting years when my kids were little and my husband was working really long hours and I felt very isolated. We had moved up to the Tacoma area from Southern California, which I loved. Tacoma was beautiful, but I didn't have friends and I didn't really have a way to connect to people because I was a stay-at-home mom. So I was isolated with two toddlers. My kids are about a year and a half apart. And man, that was tough. And my own way of dealing with that at the time was to try to make everything perfect. So there
Yeah.
was a lot of the house needs to be perfect. I need to do this right and that right. And that took me away from being present with my
Yeah.
children, even though I was there with them and I read to them and I did stuff, but I really, in hindsight, if I had that to do again, I would let a lot of that stuff go and just
Yeah.
sit down with them and play with them and
Yeah.
let them know how much I love them. And I did do all that stuff, but I would do more of it
Yeah.
and let a
Yeah.
lot of the other
Yeah.
stuff go.
Well, and that's what gives me hope for the future is I feel
Yes.
things are starting to shift when I see these younger parents having these conversations about, they go to the therapist or they go to try some conscious parenting or they go to try something else, basically going to say, I do not want my children to have the childhood I had or that my mother had or that my grandparents had. I am determined to do it differently. And
Yeah.
that takes a lot of fucking courage,
It
right?
does. It does.
Right?
And that's why we're here to
Yeah.
learn, to do better, to improve, and then pass something better to our kids. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I agree with you that today's generation inspires me. And when I say today's generation, I just mean younger
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
It's
Younger than us.
yeah, younger than us that are out there doing the work, that are doing
Yes.
this conscious parenting. And it's not the same as permissive parenting. And please
No.
don't fall into that trap.
No.
It's intentional, conscious, loving parenting and people showing up to do all of the work for themselves. Because again, gotta start here. You can't go out and do better when you're not better. You
Yeah.
gotta
My
you
famous
gotta put your own mask on. You gotta
my
fill your own
famous
cup.
words. Yeah, it's an inside job. As I always say.
Inside job. And yeah, you can't pour from an empty cup. You
Yeah.
can't help the person next to you on the plane if you've passed out because you didn't put your mask on first. So
Yeah.
um we've got to take care of ourselves so that we can do better in the world. And what could be more beautiful than that? And
Yeah.
especially with our kids, the next generation, the folks that are coming up.
So, what are we gonna do for next year, Marcy?
Oh my
What's
gosh.
the
You know,
where do we go from here?
there's so many things that are coming up for me based on as is in the world, when you step into something new, when you say yes to something that's scary and then you step into it, it starts to open new doors and new ideas.
Yes.
And so many
Yes.
things have been opening up from this podcast, whether it's, you know, a new board member that we just acquired from someone who was on the podcast,
Yes.
who was freaking amazing,
Yes.
Dr. Tiffany Brownbush, who said, yes, thank
Yes.
you, Dr. Tiffany,
Yes.
join our board, to people we're collaborating with all over the world. But one of the topics or ideas that keep showing up for me is this idea of living from your values. And I heard multiple guests say it, and it so resonates with me. So this is a time on the planet wackadoodles going on, as our friend
Yes, it is.
Gary used to say. So it's crazy. But I feel like there's a lot of people that are living from these old paradigms, from the shoulda, woulda, the shame, the how should it be, how must it be, and not from and the tribalism, if you will, the idea that this is my this is my tribe and whatever they say goes, and this is
Yeah.
my leader and whatever he says goes. And even when those things are completely out of their value, so out of their value system. So this idea of, instead of looking to what your party is doing or what your parents always did or someone else out there, going within and saying, what are my values? What matters to me in the world?
Yes.
Is it, if it's love and peace and connection, then how am I living from those values? How am I showing up with love, peace, and connection versus judgment, criticism, attacking, fear, sharing fear, and
Yes.
it's not easy, fear
Yeah.
is very seductive. So when the news is putting out, oh no this and oh no that, you can have your values and you can know what's important to you, and then you can still hear that and go, oh my God, we need to do this, we need to do that. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm in, what can I do? Oh my God.
Yeah.
And that is not a great place to be. And it's definitely not a good place to make decisions from. And it's not values based. It's fear based. And that's
Right.
not going to lead to something good.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. Acting from
Yeah.
fear does not lead to good. Good.
For,
It just doesn't.
for sure. For sure. I've been doing a lot of work on manifesting, as you know. So,
You always do.
yeah, the master who hasn't quite
Ambassador.
mastered it yet. I'm gonna do better. I'm into time bending now.
Nice.
Yes. So I want to be able to bring more of that into the podcast. I think people are in this place in the world where they're feeling kind of hopeless right now. Like life just sucks and everyone's just grumpy and angry. Like I'm done with that. I'm so over that. Like there's so many amazing things to be excited about in this world right now.
Yes.
And I personally feel like it's an amazing time to be alive. And there are all these new amazing tools that we have. And I think people are unaware of their own power.
Totally.
And I am ready to put some of that out. I think I'm ready to share some of my
Excellent.
manifesting secrets. So, so I
That's
want
going
to
to be
know.
good, people. Debbie is a master manifester, and that's going to be, you want to catch those because
Yeah,
it's, if you don't know, then you don't know. You don't know how to do it.
yeah,
And if you weren't raised that way, if you were raised being told to don't be braggy, you better be humble, don't, stay in your
yes,
place versus the world is for you, like the plan, and the world is for everyone. So everyone gets to say, what is my joy? What would I love?
yeah,
Instead of saying, oh God, what can I manage to do in this world? Do I think I
yeah.
could afford this? Do I think I could afford that? Shifting to what would I love to bring into my life? That
How
is
about
huge
yeah?
shift.
How about
Yeah.
having some dreams, people? Right?
Yes.
Like, remember that thing? You
Yeah.
those dreams you
And
had when
not
you were a kid?
dreams just
Yeah.
like la di da di da, but
No.
manifesting dreams is like, this is what I want to see. And then you're putting yourself in that feeling place, that visualizing, just like athletes do,
Yes.
visualizing them doing the plays or whatever, doing the jump shot, doing the running in a way that's super effective, swimming, whatever the thing is,
Yeah.
visualize it and then it happens. And
Yeah.
same thing with your life.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
do you want to intentionally bring in? Again, based on your values, but also based on what would you love, based on your joy, based
Yeah.
on, and it's not a pie. If you take a nice big slice, that doesn't mean there's not enough for everyone else.
Right.
There's plenty to go around. So we can
Yes.
all find that and that joy and bring it in. And that being said, hoarding resources is different and we don't need that. So
Yes. Yes.
for those out there, we're taking way more than the needed
Yeah.
and taking and denying people who are struggling
Yeah.
just enough to get by. That's a whole other subject. That's
Yeah.
not what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
Yes. Yes. We're having an abundance mentality here.
Yes. Yeah.
And always have, and that's why we continue to grow and expand. And
Yeah.
Marcy and I, Tori gave us another idea, but we're going to level up this year. So Marcy and I have decided that we're going to go into the studio and we'll be doing some people via Zoom, but we're going to be live in the studio with some production pieces, and
Yeah.
we're ready to level up. Hopefully, fly some people out to do some live interviews, and that's what we're manifesting right now.
Yeah,
So
and
we're excited about
so
that.
to say more about that, that's something that we're just like, this is what we should do. It's not that we know how it's going to happen.
No.
You don't have to know how it's going to happen. You
Mm,
start to build it, to dream it, to see it, to fill in the pieces, and then you step out in faith, knowing that it's coming. What you focus on is what you attract. Where are you
yes.
putting your energy? Are you putting your energy on complaining, criticizing, um, just being in this low vibration of everything sucks? Or are you focused on, oh my gosh, waking up and saying, what's going to happen to me today? Or what can I bring into my life now? Or what wonderful thing is next for me?
Yeah.
That's a pretty big paradigm shift. But once you make it, everything will change in your life. And
Yeah.
we're here
Yeah.
to help you do it.
Yeah. We're ready.
Right.
Something else I've been thinking about, and so this is for all of you listening, but if you all have youth, younger children who would be willing to get on the podcast, I would love to hear from some of our younger folks
Yes.
to talk about, not about being a parent, but about being parented
Yeah.
and getting some perspective from some younger people. I would really love that, to hear their perspective on what they see going on in the world, because we've had a few people who are younger, and wow, it's pretty mind blowing to get their perspective, and I think we
Yeah.
need to hear more of it. And I feel like it's our job to be able to promote these kids and their ideas, and I want to be doing a lot more of that this
Agreed.
next year.
This is their world.
Yes.
There's nothing about manifesting. Everything you're doing now is planting the seeds for what's coming. Well, what's coming is for them. We're of people as we get older generations, whatever. I'm Gen X, whatever generation you are, as you're older, that our time is kind of, it's not that it's over, but it's that now it's time to focus on the next generation and what are we building for them. And
Yeah.
so we need to hear from them. And this generation, these younger folks have come in clearer, more centered, and more, their bullshit meters are strong. And
Yes, they are.
they don't want to hear it. Don't
No.
say this is how we've done it, or this is how it's done, or you just need to do this, or blah, my mama and I did, and my dad said. No, they don't want to hear that shit. They're
Yeah.
like, what? They see it, like, what makes sense? Like, does this whole
Yes.
system that we've set up, is it all
Is it working?
broken?
No.
Yeah, is it completely
No.
broken? Is it what's leading to the anxiety, the depression, the homelessness, the inequity in income inequity, the huge, we're just out of balance, and we created that, and we're part of it. So
Yep.
let's own it. Let's help fix it. But they need to be at the table. They need to be at the head of the table
Yeah.
um, saying, no, this isn't it. And it makes me think of that article you shared with me last week about the 13 youth in Hawaii who sued the
Yes.
state about the climate and how, you're
All the
not
roads and
making
traffic.
choices. Yeah, you're not
Yes.
making
We're fixing.
choices that are going to give us a world we can live in. And you need to. And the governor said, you're right. Thank you to the governor of Hawaii. You're
Yes.
right. And we're going to work with you. And there's going to be a youth council. And we're going to do the things that climate change is real, people, that will make the world be a habitable place in the future for humanity. Because the world's going to
Yeah.
go on. But the question is, will humans be able to survive there? And that's all on us. What
Yeah.
choices are we making?
Yeah.
Fossil
Yeah.
fuels, things that are definitely making it worse have got to go. We got to, sorry, I know it's going to be tough. I mean, I drive a car, but we got to do it. Like, it's when you make these choices that are like, this is what's convenient for me now, and
Yeah.
fuck the world, fuck the future.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's no way to make decisions about how we show up in the world.
Yeah.
You gotta look to the future. You gotta play the long game, or else it's just
Or
not.
else, what's the point?
Yeah, there's not going to be anything.
What's
There's
the point?
not going to
Yeah.
be a future.
Yeah.
So, or at least not one that anyone can or wants to live in.
Wow. Okay. So, also, if anybody's listening and they have ideas for topics that they want us to talk about that we haven't talked about, some new
Yeah.
things, maybe some new tools, Marci and I are getting our app up and running very soon, probably by the end of the year. We're super
Mhm.
excited about that. We'll be talking about more of that on our podcast.
Yeah.
So if there are other things, other ways of being in the world, and you want us to talk about it, we're all in. So just
Yeah. And
send us an email or DM us. We want to hear
yeah.
from you.
I hope you're following us on our Instagram, on our Facebook. We have a Warrior Parent podcast, Instagram and Facebook. We have a Core Experience Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. You can reach us on those. And then I believe our emails are certainly on our webpage, which our website is Cour experience.org. It is a nonprofit that Debbie and I and a group of incredible women started several years ago. It's where it all began for us as far as this work. And what Debbie was talking about, our core tools, heart-based tools, somatic tools for calming, for centering, include things like EFT, emotional freedom technique, or tapping, bilateral tapping, heart-brain coherence, meditation, journaling, doodling, sound healing. Like there's all these tools for getting yourself into a place of centeredness, a place of calm, a place of focus, where your nervous system is not running on overdrive, where you're not swimming in
Cortisol.
cortisol. Debbie's
Cortisol.
my sciencey
Really
person. I know
sciencey
you
one.
swim in something bad. Don't swim
I
in
got
cortisol.
I got you.
Yes, you do. Thank you. There's these physiological things that will happen in your body when you're in fight or flight, when you're stressed, when you're depressed, when you're anxious, when you're just out there in the world instead of centered in the place. And so that's what our tools are designed to help you come back to that center. You can use it in a moment of stress, but you can also use it daily. Start your day with meditation, start your day with heart-brain coherence, take a break in the afternoon and take 3 deep mindful breaths. These things seem small, or they seem weird, or they seem woo-woo,
Right.
but we love woo-woo here. Woo-woo
Yeah.
is good. We're all about the woo-woo, and these
Yeah.
things work. They're proven to work. They are proven scientifically to reduce stress, reduce depression, reduce the symptoms of PTSD, and just to make you more centered.
And we know everybody could use a big dose of that.
Everybody could use them. And there's one more thing I wanted us to go back to, and you kind of you touched on it with your inside job comment. But when I listen to the past podcasts, and we've had some good ones, folks. I hope you are subscribed to our podcast. I hope you're listening every week, and then I hope that you are following it, and that you go back sometimes and hit the ones you miss, because there's so much good content out there. But there's things that come up, and Debbie and I were talking about some of the things that come up often, and it being an inside job was one of them. Another one was this idea of pausing, which I just said. Like
Yeah.
Brene Brown asked a question at the end of her podcast. She does this little thing where she just asks people questions, rapid fire, she calls it. And one of them is, you're feeling stressed, you're upset, your heart is in your throat, and you're freaking out. What's the first thing you do? And every time I listen to it, I always say breathe. And it's
Yeah.
that pause, take a breath. And so it's so powerful. And it is scientifically shown to reduce your heart rate, to reduce your stress. So that's one that keeps coming up. What else have you got, Deb, besides the inside job?
Oh, well, trauma is your treasure. That's my big one. I'm all about I'm all about the trauma and healing the trauma. But if you can own it and step into it, it's an amazing life on the other side of all that, because
Yeah.
the victimhood will get you nowhere. So yeah, trauma is my treasure is my big one.
And that's a powerful one. And it feels like for some people are going to hear that and be like, what? the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? And when you're in it, that's really hard to see it, but it's a
Yeah.
trust thing. And believe me, and my friend Debbie has been through some trauma, like some real trauma. So she doesn't say this from a place of trauma's your treasure.
Yeah.
She has been through it, folks. And she shares some of that at times, but if she can do it, you can do it. And it really is, it's gonna flip the script on your life.
Yeah.
All right, I got another one, and it's that I find myself saying, feels like almost every episode, but it's that awareness is the first step.
Yes.
So whatever you're going through, taking that first step is to be aware of what it is, and that's getting curious. So it's saying, oh gosh, I feel crappy right now. What is that? Why is my stomach hurting right now? Or why is
Yes.
my heart racing right now? First step, like awareness that something's going on in your body and your heart and your mind, and then getting curious and saying, like, what is that? And that's where you can be like, wait, that's every time I show up for this class, or that's every time this person comes into the room, or every time I talk to my fill in the blank, this person in my life, or this my job. Every time I arrive at my job, I feel like this, or every time I turn the news on, I feel like this. And then
Yes.
you've got awareness, you get curious, you figure out the thing, and then what's next? That's up
Yeah.
to you. You get to
Yeah.
decide.
What's next is staying open, which is something we talk about a lot too, right?
Yes, staying open is huge.
Yeah.
What is coming? Because you can, so we talk about manifesting, we talk about what I love, but don't get too closed. It has to look like this. Like I said, the how is not yours. The how is the universe. The how is whatever word you use that will bring it in, but don't be like it has to look like this,
Yeah.
because don't limit your dream. Like, be open to the good and be open to whatever. If it's starting a podcast or a new job or a relationship or whatever's showing up for you, things show up for you to look at. Awareness, get curious, and then maybe step into it. Maybe not. You can choose to say, no, that's not for me. That's boundaries. That's another big one.
Yes.
But don't just say, oh no, we don't do that here, or my family doesn't do that, or
Right.
like these old paradigms of that's not how we do it. Why? Look at it. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's not for you, but be
Yeah.
open to looking at it and seeing if maybe it is.
Being open and letting go.
Letting go, yes.
That's the final one. Like,
That's a big one.
just let that shit go.
Yeah. Don't be like this, like clinging to the thing. And related to that, that's kind of like, and it's again, they're all so interrelated. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But like somebody says something really shitty to you or something, and this is Brene Brown again, you don't have to pick that comment up and hold it and, wear it and shower in it. Like, you can just, like, someone can say something shitty and it can hit you and you can just let it fall to the ground and you can just step over it and keep going. Like, because that's not about you. That's
Right.
theirs.
Yep.
If you choose to pick it up and get all cozy with it, then you're going to bring yourself some discomfort, some pain, some stuff that I think you probably don't want. We are at choice, but we
Yes.
have to be mindful about it, because autopilot will pick it up and be like, oh my God, and then tell the story. Debbie, look at what's all over me that so and so said. Look at
Woe
where
is me.
woe is me, and oh, I hate this. Look at, I hate this thing that I've wrapped myself in, versus, oh gosh, no thank you. And I'm not
Yes.
saying it's easy. It's not easy, but once you start to have the awareness, it can be simple, but not easy.
Yeah.
But it gets easier. Practice it and it gets easier.
Yeah. Okay. So you've had a little bit of where we came from, what we've been through, and where we're going in the next year. So we're hoping that you have enjoyed a year with us. We're hoping that you're going to spend the next year with us. And we're hoping you're going to tell all your friends and family about the Warrior
Yes.
Parent podcast. And come show up. If you got something to say, we'd love to have you here.
Yes, we want your feedback
And maybe come to our brand new studio and be a guest there too.
that we are manifesting.
Yes.
Like, share, follow, and just keep showing up as part of this community. It truly does take a village. You are a village, and we're just grateful for you.
Cha-ching.
Cha-ching.
Cheers to
Chin-chin.
us.
And here's to you.
Bye.
And now for your core mental health break. This is your opportunity to take a moment to support your mental wellness, your peace of mind, your own ease and grace. Take some time every day to support your mental health. You deserve it, and it matters. So now I encourage you to place your feet flat on the floor. If you happen to be outside, I encourage you to take your shoes off and put your feet into the ground, feeling that grounding energy. If you're inside or somewhere where you don't want to take your shoes off, that's okay too. You can still put your feet flat on the ground and feel into Mother Earth. Receive a deep breath in through your nose. Fill your lungs and your belly. And then release that breath. Today, let's open ourselves up to guidance, to our intuition, to what we are meant to know today. Sit in silence for just a moment and allow any insight, any ideas, any inspiration to just drop in. And when it does, sit with it. Keep yourself from immediately doubting or denying or saying, oh no, that's not for me. If it dropped in, it's meant to be looked at. Take a moment and look at it. Sometimes things will come in later when you open your mind. If something doesn't drop in right now, no worries. Just stay open. Thank you for pausing for yourself today. Your mental health is important, and you deserve peace, calm, and ease in your life every day. So please choose to receive it. It is always available right at your center, your heart, your core. Stay well, friends. Thanks for listening to the Warrior Parent Podcast, which is a production of our nonprofit, Cour Experience, who also creates and distributes Cour tools. You can find us at courexperience.org. Make sure you join us next week for another informative conversation to help you and your family show up mindfully, purposefully, and joyfully with each other and in your community.
Our Cour Tools platform consists of a number of proven tools and techniques that are designed to reduce stress, anxiety, and overwhelm in spite of what's going on in your world. We want to thank Samuel Hale, LLC, for sponsoring this podcast. Technical and marketing support comes from Inspire Your Brand. Our podcast editor is Justin Beeden. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, the producers, or the financial supporters. I'm Debbie DiManno.
And I'm Marci Mitchell. Thanks for listening. If you resonate with the idea of creating a community to help support kids and families, won't you join us by following the podcast and sharing this episode? You can even write a review. It truly does take a village, and we appreciate you.